Thomas, are a really useful engine.
It had been 1 month to the day since the 75th anniversary party, and something was on Gordon's mind as he was resting in the shed. "Is anything the matter, Gordon?" asked Henry. "I was thinking back to the 75th celebrations. The Fat Controller invited Scott and Bowler from the mainland, given they were both in the Thin Clergyman's books, but Stepney didn't show up." "I believe I can explain that for you, Gordon," said the Fat Controller. "Stepney had a steam pipe fail back in 2014, and sadly is unlikely to be restored into steam any time in the near future. He did wish us a happy 75th, though." "Poor Stepney," sighed Gordon sadly. "Indeed," agreed Henry, "but not all engines can run forever, you know. Let's be happy that we at least have some memories of him." Gordon agreed, and then said, "You know, I remember my first visit to the Bluebell." "I remember that too, and you came home earlier than expected," chuckled Henry. Yes, murmured Gordon, "but my opinion on heritage railways was forever changed since that experience." Just then, Geoffrey steamed out of the coach shed. He was getting ready for his trial run to Bickerstown. He had overheard all the talk about Gordon and the Bluebell. "I haven't heard of this Stepney character before. Who is he?" Gordon and Henry were surprised, but from getting to know Geoffrey over the past few months since his release from the works, they remembered that he had spent most of his life working in Australia. "Stepney was the Bluebell's first preserved steam engine. He first came to see us and our railway a long time ago. One time during the 60th anniversary year, I said some words towards him about heritage railways that, upon reflection since then, I am not proud of. Something terrible made me realize why heritage railways are so important." And so this was the story about Gordon and the Bluebell Railway. Many years ago, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt, the third Fat Controller, held a special 60th anniversary celebration for the Thin Clergyman's books, and he had invited engines from the mainland that had appeared in them. One of these invited engines was Stepney the Bluebell engine. When the celebrations were over, Truro and Scott went home with their passengers back to the mainland. While Stepney stayed at the sheds with the big engines waiting to go home the next day by lorry. He was telling everyone all about his railway. "You're all welcome to visit my Bluebell Railway." The other engines were eager to visit his railway, but not Gordon. He liked Stepney, but he wasn't too fond on the idea of a heritage railway. "No, thank you," he sniffed. Stepney was surprised. "I believe the idea of a heritage railway seems rather silly. Engines that once graced the main line puffing up and down a single track through trees and fields, not doing any real work like a real engine. It sounds more like a retirement village than a railway if you ask me." "It's not a retirement village, Gordon," remarked Stepney crossly. "It's a railway like yours. A railway is a big industry that serves an entire population. A heritage railway is not that. Stepney was furious. The next day, Stepney went home and it was work as usual for the other engines. Gordon still detested the idea of a heritage railway, and he wanted everyone to know. But no one was bothering to listen. However, Sir Stephen did overhear him from his office. "Gordon, I want a word with you." Yes, sir." "I've been hearing your opinions today about heritage railways, particularly Stepney's home." Gordon gulped as Sir Stephen continued. "I even got word this morning from the Bluebell Railway that Stepney is still rather upset over what you said about his home last night. I find it quite unreasonable that you would say his line is more like a retirement village, especially coming from an engine who has no experience whatsoever of being on a heritage railway. So next week, you'll be going to the Bluebell Railway by lorry." Gordon was shocked. "But sir—" "No buts, Gordon. I've already made the arrangements, and you will go there next week. Henry, Molly and James will look after your express." The next week came, and Gordon arrived at Sheffield Park on the Bluebell Railway. Stepney was there to greet him. "Hello, Gordon. Come to visit our railway, or as you put it, our retirement village, eh?" And he laughed, but Gordon had no time for jokes. The next morning, Gordon puffed across the Bluebell with his first train. Enthusiasts had come from all over to see him and take photographs. He didn't mind the attention, but he was still cross about his visit. "Disgraceful, disgraceful," he muttered. He was even more upset that he had to run a train backwards on the return journey from Kingscote. "This is even more disgraceful. I fought against this kind of practice once with Henry and James." He soon arrived at Horsted Keynes. Gordon was so cross that he braked hard. This resulted in the coaches bumping into each other and an outcry of angry passengers. "Be careful, Gordon," shouted Stepney. Gordon just sniffed. Gordon was rude all day, and the passengers and enthusiasts were cross with this behaviour. They demanded their money back over their experience. The manager had seen everything Gordon had done, and emphasising with them all, saw no other option than to refund their money. He went to speak Gordon later that day after closing time. "Gordon, I've had nothing but complaints about your behaviour today. You have given us a lot of trouble, and after speaking with your controller, I can tell you that he is very unhappy about what you've done. So after some deliberation with him, I have decided to send you home tonight." Gordon was glad that he was going home. So was Stepney. When Gordon returned to Sodor, Sir Stephen Topham spoke to him severely. "Not only have you given the Bluebell Railway a bad reputation, but you have given our railway a bad rap as well, and during the 60th anniversary year to make things worse. You will stay in your shed and think about what you have done." And Gordon did. Meanwhile, back on the Bluebell Railway, Stepney and his friends were working like normal. But a few days later, a storm was brewing. Dark clouds loomed over the railway, and the engines were worried. Then strong winds came and the rain pelted down. Services were cancelled throughout the day, and the passengers all went home to get away from the storm. But there was trouble. The storm was so large that it knocked over a few trees which blocked the line, and the rain flooded the station waiting rooms and platforms. Finally the storm passed, but the damage was done. The manager came to see Stepney and the other engines at the sheds. "Due to the trees blocking the line, we'll be suspending services for the time being to clean things up." "But sir, what about the towns? They rely on us." "I'm afraid they're going to have to deal with us being closed, Stepney. We can't run trains through trees." Back on Sodor, Gordon was still feeling miffed from his earlier punishment, but was glad to be out of his shed pulling the express. While he was waiting, he saw Sir Stephen looking very sad. "What's wrong, sir?" he asked. Then he told Gordon about the Bluebell, the storm, and the damage it had left on the railway. Worse still, some businesses already started to feel the pinch, what with the lack of visitors coming from the railway, and with not having enough engines to help out with the work, who knows how long it will be until they can reopen. Do you mean there are industries and surrounding populations relying on that railway, and they can no longer get the support they need from their railway? Well, of course there are, Gordon. Enthusiasts and holidaymakers form a large part of the railway industry across the mainland nowadays. If the line can't operate, they may have to close down for good. I want to go and help. You, Gordon? I don't know. I don't think they would want you back. Not after your poor actions and the bad reputation you caused as a result. Oh, please let me go there, sir. From what you've just said, I realise now that I've had a terrible misconception of heritage railways this whole time, and can see that they are indeed like our railway. They do serve an entire population just like us, and if they don't have enough passengers, where would Stepney go then? Plus, I want to repair our image again, sir, and make up for my poor behaviour there. Sir Stephen smiled. You have indeed learned an important lesson, Gordon. I'm proud of you. So he contacted the Bluebell Railway. After that, the railway approved Sir Stephen's request, and Gordon arrived at the Bluebell once again. Stepney wasn't pleased to see him though, and Gordon could understand why. I'm sorry for what I said earlier, and for my behaviour when I was here before. You can rightly hate me all you want, but right now I'm here to help to get your railway back into shape. I don't want to see you living off somewhere else after making your home here, and I don't want to see businesses fail either, because they rely on your railway just like mine. Stepney smiled. Alright then, Gordon, let's get to work. And so they did. The trees were cut up into logs and placed into trucks that the railway had preserved, as Gordon puffed up and down the line clearing the path. People from the various towns and villages watched the big blue engine hard at work. They cheered and waved at him. A few weeks later, the job was finally done. The Bluebell manager was pleased with the engines and Gordon. Thank you, Gordon. I must say you are a changed engine compared to the first time you visited our line. And for the better too. Gordon smiled. All of the locals who had come to Sheffield Park cheered and clapped, and ever since that day, Gordon's opinion on the idea of heritage railways had been changed for good. And that's how I came to appreciate heritage railways and my good friend Stepney, he finished. Ah, memories. He then looked towards the night sky and sighed. Good night, Stepney. Good night, Gordon.